Folks, how's everybody doing? It's another Hoss Chat coming at you Monday, October 23rd. How are you doing? Are you hanging in there? Keeping the bankroll high, keeping the credit down low? Today, I am joined by my confidant in sickness and health. My brother keeps me on track. Mr. Jonny Lanteigne, ladies and gentlemen. Little table clap for him.
Thank you for the table clap. I'm excited to be here on Hoss Chat today.
Of course, Hoss. You are one of the primary Hosses. So, you've checked out Hoss Chat, and you've seen a couple episodes. You've seen kind of what we've been doing on here. I'll give you a little backstory before we jump in this with Jonny. I've known Jonny since I was probably about 3 years old. We grew up about a block away from each other. We're coming from you live from the block right now.
Yep.
We've done a lot of horrible things together. We've done a lot of great things together. I was there the night he met his wife, kind of. And Jonny actually drums for me.
Yeah.
For most of the shows we do. And when he's not drumming with me, he's drumming with the Turning Corners band, tremendous band locally. And Jonny's always busy. He's out there. He's building a house right now. He's building a career. He's building his life up. Ladies and gentlemen, Jonny Lanteigne.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the introduction there. Yeah, I am proud to call myself one of the Boogie Boys for Nick Bordman. When I'm able to be there on the drums, it's always fun playing with you and playing with Turning Corners. And I don't know. I've been playing drums. Do you want me to go into it a little bit?
Yeah, let them know. Let them know why you're
all right. Well,
stuff.
I've been playing drums since I was 3. I got my first little set, my first little thing. There's home evidence of it, home video evidence. Fisher Price, yeah. And took lessons for a couple of years when I was 11 and 12, and then I met the Weber brothers who make up Turning Corners band, and then of course when you started your music journey, we started playing together, and it's
I don't mean to jump in, but maybe explain the Turning Corners.
Yeah,
stylistically, who they are.
Yeah, Turning Corners. It's 3 brothers, Isaac, Sam, and Elijah Weber, and our keyboard player Graham Beaton, and myself. So there's 5 of us, all St. David Catholic Secondary School graduates. That's our high school there.
Shout out.
Of all different years. And we've been together now for I think it's been 5 years, and we do the 60s, 70s, 80s covers. Starting to do some original stuff now. Been playing locally, been playing privately, and it's been fun. It's been fun for the ride.
Now, just because we're on the topic of music, before we jump into anything else, what do you have a story that comes to mind as like maybe not your favorite gig or your coolest gig, but maybe like the most memorable gig you've had so far with anybody, regardless of who you've played with?
Most memorable one. That's a tough one. I would probably say I'll actually branch out here a little bit. The craziest one was with Basil Bauer, who I play with. He's a local country musician. He played a show at the Stampede Ranch in Guelph, and they do those weekend sets. So it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and you play all 3 days. And it was last year for what was it, St. Patrick's Day in March, and it was just crazy. The whole place was filled up, and so I think that was definitely the craziest one with people. One guy got body slammed. Never
Nice.
seen that before. That was pretty cool.
Did you film it?
Didn't film, well, mentally filmed it.
Oh.
You just see amongst the sea of students, just one guy lifts up, and you're like, oh wait, that's his feet. And then bang, he's on the ground.
Did
and
you think it hurt?
sturdy jump. I think he might still be in the hospital.
Hey, if you're listening to this and you're alive, let us know.
Yeah, let us.
If not, we're assuming you've passed.
Email Hoss Chat to let us know you're okay.
HossChat@gmail.com. Yeah, you're busy. You're busy all the time. You're playing with the Turning Corners. You're playing with me. You're playing with Yusuf Basil and a couple other guys. But when you're not out on the road and we're not out doing something rowdy, you are a husband.
I am a husband. Yeah.
Last year, at 22 years old, Jonny got married.
I did.
To his wife, Jane, now Jane Lanteigne. Tell us about being married at this age. I mean, I know it sounds silly now to even like nag on that, because even in the last year, how many people do we know have been married?
There have been a few. You
started the trend.
I don't know about that.
But before being married, like, talk about, okay, you know what? We'll just go back to the start. Tell us about how you met your wife. It's quite like a Disney story.
Well, Well, maybe a little bit. I was in grade 10. She was in grade 11.
Nice.
We both went to the same high school, at the aforementioned high school, and I was at a party, and that's where we met. It was actually there because before my 60s, 70s in country rock days, I played pop punk.
I remember that. When
That
you wore
was
mascara.
that was right. That was no. That's for all the viewers at home. That's not true. But
cried a lot.
I did have a white belt that everyone reminds me of that I wore. So that was about as pop punk as it got right there, folks. And I played with two guys that were in a grade older. So then I kind of, rummaged around with that group a little bit. And, we didn't go anywhere. It was just a high school thing. It was great. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. And at one of those, parties, that's where I met Jane. And it wasn't until a little while later, months later, that we officially started dating or whatever it was. And then ever since then, we both went to University of Waterloo. And then after I graduated, it was, that was it. Put the ring on and off to the races.
How much did you pay her?
Yeah.
What would you say? Because you guys are almost your year anniversary.
Yeah.
What would you say? It doesn't this is going to sound like a negative question, but I don't mean it like that. What has been the biggest shock being married for this duration now? Being with that same person, you guys were together for years and years prior.
Yeah.
What is different now in the relationship, or maybe nothing is different?
Well, it was 7 years, right? And I think the biggest thing is now, we live together, right? So we're together more, it's been great. It's been fine. There's been,
but
yeah, right. No, it's honestly been really great so far. Yeah, because we got married last December, for which Nick was my best man.
Yeah.
Nick Bordman.
I held her down.
Yeah.
Held her down. Did a speech or two.
He did do a couple of speeches there, just for all of you that
I
didn't
think
know.
they were relatively clean. I don't remember swearing too much.
Well, yeah, I don't think so. I think you were all good there. Yeah, but I think it's just been living together has been just the most biggest change, right? I haven't done that before, so.
How do you find when conflict does arise? Not to air out your laundry, but when conflicts do arise, how do you navigate that as opposed to just being in that dating stage? Do you find that to be a little bit different? Is it a little bit less sink or swim, or is it a little more lenient, or you just know each other better now?
I think we just know each other better. Yeah, there's not, there's never any massive problems just because we know each other so well, I think. And yeah, there's no real massive conflicts that come up. I don't know. As of yet, it's only been 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, whatever it is.
Don't say 9 months. You know what that means.
Oh no, not yet.
But kids are on the radar, right?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I definitely want kids, and that'll be in the future for sure.
Can't wait to pollute his mind with bad things. Kidding. I'm gonna be a great uncle.
Nick Bordman is not allowed to be around my children, for all the folks at home.
I'll be an excellent uncle.
Yeah.
Your uncle's here. Besides marriage, in music being busy in the last year, you've been working on building a house.
Yeah.
Tell us about that a little bit. I know you've lived it. I've helped you a bit, but this is your full time.
Yeah, well, it's definitely consumed all of my free hours. It's just been, we've been doing it all ourselves, which I think you kind of have to do today. And it's been a fun process. I've learned a lot. I've had a lot of help from family members, of course, just passing on wisdom and knowledge and everything. And her dad and my dad, obviously they've got, a good 40 years on me. So they know quite a lot more about all those building things. But
building things and such.
Yeah, building things and such. But it's been great to learn all of that. So it's been a fun process. And of course, you've been there helping. We just built a fence.
Yeah, we did. And I learned I'm not that good at building fences.
He did fine except for when he shoved a screw through his hand.
I did that as a joke, but I committed to it. Yeah, that's great. Like the past year, because I've known you for years now, the last year or so, it's like a decade in 1 year.
Yeah.
Of the amount of stuff you've been doing.
Well, yeah, there's been a lot going on. There's been a lot going on, but as long as you still have time to get outside and fish a little bit, play some music, that's all you need to do, really, you know?
Like, I know you're saying those are your outlets there, like going outside music. Obviously, that's where we kind of agree on, but when you do feel overwhelmed, or do you feel overwhelmed at times, what is your kind of recipe to fix that?
Yeah.
With keeping in mind your wife will probably listen to this.
Right, yeah. I don't know. I think I'm generally, pretty chill. Things get stressful for sure at times, but making sure you get a good sleep. such an old man answer.
Nothing like a good sleep and a nice
There is nothing like a good sleep. You just wake up and you're like, let's get back out there and do it. You're like that, You're always out and about too.
I like to move, and sleep is a big thing. But yeah. I'm terrible with sleep. Yesterday we went squirrel hunting, and before we went, we were leaving at 7 or 8 in the morning, I should say. And my brain went, you know what? That's really early. Stay up all night.
Yeah.
And then just sleep tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'm coming off the back end of that.
Well, we've done that quite a few times. Nick, for those, I'm going to take over the process here. Nick, well, back in the day, I say back in the day as if it was not 2 years ago, we would almost every night go out for a nice jaunt at night. And that was when, those were back the university days, of course, still. So there was no real schedule to life other than classes. Mm-hmm. And whenever I'd get off work or he'd get off work part-time, like at night, we just go out for a walk around Waterloo.
And sometimes we'd pair a nice red wine with the walk. Every now and then you'd eat a piece of funny chocolate. Yeah. You never knew what was going to happen. But yeah, we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of... We were cursed. We would always run into coyotes.
We would. That was always great.
Love coyotes.
That's a hoss thing right there.
Yeah, hanging out with a coyote. Who else hangs out with a coyote?
Yeah.
A couple hosses.
Coyote.
So maybe... I'm trying to think. We covered your house... Just trying to think of give you the backstory on you before we dive into anything too silly. Maybe talk about where. So you're in the process right now of kind of building your life and building a career.
Yeah.
You're building everything up. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'll hit you with one of those granola 5-year plans.
Yeah, eating granola, getting up at 6 a.m.
I want to be happy in 5 years.
Well, I am in teacher's college still. I'm finishing up that. So I'm working as a supply teacher right now, right, as you know. So in 5 years, I hope to be employed as a teacher. Things are looking up for that right now. There was, it's a wave, right? They all of a sudden do have teachers, and then no one can get a job for 5-10 years. And then right now there seems to be a little bit of a dip where there's a little bit of a shortage people talk about, but it's in pockets, it's in regions, right? Like in Waterloo, it could be very different than in, Peterborough, for example. It's hard to group the province as a whole, but it seems to be like there's, a little bit of a teacher shortage, so that should help me to get a job faster. But you never know what it's going to be like in even a year or 2 years. So hopefully I'll be employed regionally.
Yeah, I think what we've heard from our teacher friends that I've at least heard mirrored from them is kids these days. I sound like an old man. That's okay. They don't really care. They're I think they're exposed to so much more with avenues like TikTok and Instagram and things like that they don't care anymore. There's so much. I don't even want to say wittier, but they're not afraid to kind of stand back up to the teacher. Maybe not even stand up. It's more of just pushback.
Yeah.
And maybe in some instances that's okay, but a lot of times I can't remember being a kid ever wanting to stand and be like, tell the teacher, you're wrong.
Yeah. No, I think a lot definitely has changed. I remember even when we were in grade 8, you wouldn't stand up to our grade 8 teacher. Like there was a definite gradient between the two of us of authority, right? Where you just respect him a lot. And
well, to show you a contrast how different things are, I remember, without incriminating anybody, in grade 8, a classic tale of, we were in 8th grade, and a couple of us guys were outside at recess playing tag. And brother Johnny over here was it, and I didn't want to be it. So he came over to tag me, and I turned around, and I aimed my foot right at his family jewels. And I got him.
He did.
And he fell down because it didn't feel good.
Yeah.
And
that's why I can't have kids now.
You're welcome. And the teacher came over and said, hey, you guys can't kick each other in the family jewels. And we weren't mad at each other. We were just messing around as kids. And so both got hauled off into a classroom. And the deal that we were offered was, hey, either you both can get a detention or write out the book of Genesis by hand. Yeah. Or go out in the hallway and clean the stairs by hand. Now, get this straight. I was the perpetrator. He was the victim. Both parties had to clean the floor because of what had happened.
Did you take floor or did you take Genesis?
I didn't do anything. I remember I said, let's clean the floor, and then we chatted in the hallway while you recovered. Bring that back.
Yeah.
Cleaning the floors with a toothbrush.
Well, that's why it's so much different now because, if there's one thing that I learned in all of this schooling for being a teacher, it's behavior management and classroom management is one of the biggest things right now. It's one of the toughest things. How do you manage students that may not have much respect for the teacher and navigating that, and that's I think one of the biggest skills that to practice as an incoming teacher. At least that's what I've heard from other teachers that are far more 40 years into it.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the climate we're now, like politically, socially, it's a very weird time to teach other people's kids. But I mean, that's very a reduced way of saying that.
Yeah.
Teaching other people's kids. As a teacher, you are there to teach the younger generation.
Yeah.
But I just mean we're in such a divisive climate right now.
Yeah.
It's so strange as to how you can teach, because obviously there's going to be bias in whatever you're teaching. That's just how that happens. We can think back to many instances as kids where maybe you were taught something that wasn't quite the actuality of what you were learning. It was a little bit of a bias in there, or sometimes wrong. Things are wrong.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm talking about kids standing up to teachers, like, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because sometimes teachers are human. Like, people do things that aren't right, or whatever the case might be. But all I'm saying is I wouldn't want to be in there right now.
Well, yeah, no, I know it's going to be a challenge, but I made this decision that I wanted to do this back, in high school, at the tail end of high school. I thought this would be Mr. Schumacher, our grade 12 biology teacher. He was the one that definitely inspired me to do it, to teach biology at the high school level. And I don't know, I've just carried through and try to develop some of those behavior management skills along the way. Try my best. Check in with me in 5 years. See
if he's the best teacher, if he's in prison.
I'll be back on Hosh Chat in 5 years, folks.
Yeah, it's such a strange time to be doing that. But do you want to talk a little bit about, like, Jane, your wife? I'm sure Jane will be on this one day. Hi, Jane.
Hi, Jane.
Maybe talk about what Jane does career-wise. Jane's got quite a fascinating career.
Yeah. Jane's working for the school board locally right now. She's her graduate program was in the anti-human trafficking realm, so she's been doing a lot of that. Terrifying. Oh my goodness, the things I didn't know. Let me tell you, especially in Kitchener-Waterloo.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness, like, you think downtown Kitchener is a little sketchy. Oh, let me tell you, like, the things that go on is just unfathomable to the mind.
It's one of those things where it's like, it's not favorable to be ignorant to that, because you don't want to be uneducated as to what's happening in the community, but at the same time, it's like, oh, now the veil's gone. Now
Yeah.
you see reality for what it is.
Like, it is just, and they talk about Kitchener is one of the human trafficking hubs of Ontario. Kitchener. Right down the street. Now, we live in Waterloo. But, well, I guess I'm a Kitchener resident now.
Yeah, you've switched.
So
You've changed teams.
I went to Kitchener. But, yeah, that's just been crazy. Oh, speaking of Kitchener, Blue Rodeo is coming to Centre in the Square in December.
Yeah. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Johnny here, one thing you should know about him is if Blue Rodeo plays in an obtainable distance for him to show up in,
I gotta go.
He's there.
I gotta go.
Was that last year with Massey Hall?
Yeah, Massey Hall was last year. Well, they do Massey Hall almost every year.
Yeah.
But the thing about last year was it was a songs seldom heard show. That was the song. That was the show title. They didn't give any details. I just knew needed to be there. They were going to play the deep tracks, and they delivered. They played the deep tracks.
But you drove back and forth twice, right? Or was it 3 times?
It was. Oh yeah, that was twice.
Because they played the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday or something, or maybe it was just
I think
Friday,
it was just
Saturday.
the 2 days.
But you went because who needs the hotel?
No, you're not paying for the hotel.
Not on this economic
Not in these conditions.
environment.
Yeah, now that I'm married, I don't know if I could do that anymore, right? You got to be a little bit more responsible. But back in those days, last year.
You know what's kind of we talk about this all the time about Blue Rodeo is, I would say our parents' generation, the people coming out of like the 60s, 70s, the early 80s, they all know Blue Rodeo, especially if you're Canadian. But you talk to somebody our generation, fat chance they're going to know Blue Rodeo.
Yeah.
Or they might recognize like one of the popular songs they hear on the radio at like 7 a.m. But to actually know the group, I don't know many people that outside of the music realm, obviously, would be able to recognize that group.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's weird because, everyone knows the Hip. Everyone knows Tragically Hip, and that's like Canada's band. And Blue Rodeo is like right there with them in terms of success. Now, I probably just made a lot of people mad by saying that. I don't know the statistics. Maybe they're way ahead of Blue Rodeo on whatever metrics you're going to argue. So sorry. I'm just going to redact that statement right now. But they are one of Canada's, frontier bands that have come out of Canada. They're really big, right? But at the same time, you're right. There's a lot of people who are like, who's that? And they might, and that's always been a weird phenomenon for me, is like everyone knows the Hip are big, right? Blue Rodeo's big, but not everyone knows Blue Rodeo. It's just a weird thing.
It is very weird, and I think even like in the region here, I know they played several local spots that don't even exist anymore in the 70s, 80s, and like my dad, I remember when we went to a Blue Rodeo show, I think that was last year. Or maybe the year before, we went to see them at Centre in the Square. And my dad was like, why are you going to watch them? You can go see them at whatever bar. I was like, Dad, Father, this is not 83 anymore.
Yeah, so I guess they have gotten quite a bit bigger from their days. And well, it was when their album 5 Days in July. Sorry, that's not the album that took off. But the reason I brought that up is because now the tour that they're doing right now is the anniversary of, forget how many years. I think it's the 30th anniversary of 5 Days in July. So they're doing the whole album, front to back, plus an additional few songs. So that's when they're coming to Centre in the Square in December. So they've been playing those shows around.
We got to plan a big trip again for this summer.
Yeah.
We usually, us guys, like our friend group, we'll go like camping, that's something smaller, fishing or whatever it might be. But last year we went down to Nashville, Alabama. Huntsville, Alabama, to see Mr. Bo Cephas, Hank Williams Jr.
In the flesh.
He was there. He was fleshy, and
barely.
Yeah,
he was looking like he might not be too fleshy soon.
Maybe a whiskey soak.
Yeah.
But that was so fun. Just that's the only time I've actually ever been to Nashville. But we were really taken away from the lack of country music.
Yeah.
On Broadway.
Yeah. Well, that's where I got the education of the song on Murder on Music Row by Mr. George Strait, right?
Yeah. Look, it makes sense. It does make sense as to why that's like that the way it is now. I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
It's such like a commercialized spot, which is kind of disheartening.
Yeah.
Because from somebody like myself or you, fans of the country world, and this is like the mecca of country music, and you get there, and it's just this like commercialized cash cow. The whole thing is like, I mean, I know that's an area that's been beaten to death too. Is like Nashville can kiss my butt and all this stuff, but I don't know. I was just it kind of hit it on the nail on the top of the head with that.
Yeah.
With that, it's like it's a machine now. The Hall of Fame was really cool. I got to see a lot of really cool things of artists that I listen to daily. That's kind of a surreal thing, but it's not what it used to be, or I think it's not what a lot of people think outwardly that it is. From my perspective, maybe it is somebody else, but that's just, I don't know. I feel pretty far removed from all that stuff.
And Kid Rock has his bar down there too.
Yeah,
that's not a country, like
Brother Kid Rock.
You're right. Yeah, like
Brother Rock.
So it's just you see that, and then you go down to Tootsie's, and then they still got that's where we saw that old country band, I think, right?
No, we went into Tootsie's, the Orchid Lounge. They were playing kind of like a medley of country, non-country, and we went to Robert's Western World.
Oh, that's where it was.
Robert Earl Keen's place.
And that's like you walk back in time.
Yeah, it's like a honky tonk. Yeah,
that's
a real
honky tonk. That is what I feel like Nashville was.
Yeah. And we missed, because this was last year, this just opened this fall, was Hank Jr.'s bar just opened.
Yeah.
The Boogie Bar.
So I guess we got to go back?
Yeah. And we had a friend that was down there the other week, and he loved it. He sent me pictures, and I was pretty pissed off that he was down there and I wasn't. But yeah, I'd love to go down there. That's kind of paradoxical. I just pooped on Nashville for 2 minutes, and I can't wait to go back.
Well, if Hank's down there now.
I'd like to go again and maybe, I don't know, maybe see some different things. Maybe that'll change my viewpoint on it. But it just felt very, I don't know, fake.
Commercialized.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't know. Even the Hall of Fame, like you go in after, they have specific merch to certain artists, and it's like 4 times what you would ever pay.
Yeah.
And it's just, like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
It's not so much about the music anymore, it feels.
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing I did appreciate about Nashville, to give them a plus, a positive, is that in every bar, this was the best thing ever. They had
tampons,
big jugs of water on every corner of every bar.
They did,
with cups, which was fantastic because when we were down there, it was probably 40 degrees Celsius.
Remember we showered before we left and our hair never dried.
I just remember when we were walking, we got a hotel or whatever, and we're like, oh, it's not that far. It's a 2K walk just down. It's on the same street.
Yeah.
I have never sweat at the kneecaps before. I was sweating at the kneecaps. It was my jeans. We shouldn't have wore jeans in the first place.
No.
But I was in Nashville, figured I had to wear jeans. My jeans were soaked. And, it was at my knees. It was the weirdest thing. I've never experienced that before.
You were Johnny was fanning himself like an old Southern grandma.
Right.
Like an old fan.
I'm sounding like it. I'm sounding like it right now. But the fact that they had, ice cold water at every bar, all the bars had it. All the bars at every corner of each bar, because some of those bars are 3 levels high.
Yeah, that Kid Rock one was.
They had water. It was great.
Bar.
I love that. I appreciate a good cold glass of water. So.
Well, I felt what you said.